One. Just in case you didn't know, Willie Mo Jr. is on your radio family. It's the Willie Mo Jr. show, and I am hanging out with my sister Candice, huh? Candis. And of course, she's representing the Division of Family and Children's Services right there in the state of Georgia. If you're listening across this great nation, she does so much. I am so blessed to call her sister. I'm so blessed to call her friend. How you doing today, Candice?
I'm doing well and so happy to be here with you this afternoon.
Listen, it is such an honor to hang out with you. You have so much support for children who are in foster care. And that's what really, really connected me to you, just because I seen the passion that you had, not only for children, but also the families who joined the opportunity to make sure that these children grow up in a loving home. Candice, talk a little bit about your tenure as being the Independent Living Program Director for Division of Family and Children's Services of the state of Georgia. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Willie. Thanks for that lead in. I've been with the division now for about 24 years, but the
Wow.
last few years I'm privileged to serve as the state's Independent Living Program Director. What my program particularly does is provide support by way of policy development, service intervention, and the like. And of course, through coordination with community partnerships, such as what we do now with your agency and organization, we try to provide support to those young people who are transitioning through foster care ages 14 to 21, and then those young people who've exited care who may be experiencing some financial hardships, or those who may be matriculating through post-secondary schools.
Indeed. Hanging out with my dear sister Candice from the Division of Family and Children's Services in the state of Georgia. Candice, I got to ask you this. Why is this mission so personal to you?
I've been working with young people for years. Before I even got into the role of the Independent Living Program Director, teenagers have always been dear to me. I've always had a connection with youth when I did it through my church and serving young people. So I guess I've been a teenager magnet, if you could say. So when transitioning into this role, it wasn't difficult to do. Understanding the plight that young people experience just through adolescence, I understood that because of my work prior to even joining into this effort. Coupled with that was my experience with servicing those who are impacted by whichever means through the child welfare system. And so, understanding the uniqueness of trauma experiences and how that impacts the development of young people as they transition through adolescence just made my awareness of what their needs are even more profound. And so, through this, being able to relanguage what young people are experiencing to those who may have dissonance with understanding how young people have difficulty expressing themselves, how they may have difficulty in advocating for themselves in a way that adults can hear them. So I serve as a medium, I guess you can say, in those
Wow.
spaces to make sure that those who serve as young people can do it well.
Indeed, Candice Jones. Listen, talk to me a little bit about the initiative currently underway, because I know you're excited about it.
Yes, absolutely. So right now, many Americans don't know that back in December 2020, the Consolidated Appropriations Act was passed by the federal government. And in that act, it provided funding specifically for what we call the Chafee program. What's unique about the Chafee program is every state or province or Indian tribe um, receives funding from the federal government to support young people ages 14 to 21 transitioning through care. What that act did was provide additional money so
Got it.
to states to help young people who have been impacted by the pandemic. And so the legislation passed $400 million
Wow.
that was sparsed out throughout the country. And Georgia, of course, is one of those states that received an earmarked amount of money from the federal government to sort of activate what those services and resources could be. But what they did do was allow states to leverage what those resources could be like, right? So it does
Okay.
differ based on each state. What we did in Georgia was decide that we would first ask young people, what should we do? What should that help look like for you? What are you experiencing in the pandemic that you believe is the thing that we should focus on with this funding? And what they told us was they needed direct cash assistance to be able to provide things on their own, like food, things that they need right now. Then they also needed support with housing and transportation. And so those are the three areas that we focused on. And so right now we with our IT team, created a portal where young people can go in and apply for those supports. And we have some amazing partners that we have partnered with here in Georgia that help process those requests as those applications come in.
Indeed, my dear sister Candace Jones holding us down in a major way. I want to talk a little bit about children who may have aged out. And during this time, of course, sometimes it doesn't feel like it, especially in the state of Georgia, because everybody's doing whatever they want to do. But COVID-19 has impacted young people in a tremendous way. Talk a little bit about that, Candace.
So one of the things that I recognize that many people don't know is what it's like to experience foster care, right, as a teenager, and the uncertainties that surround the foster care experience, specifically placement, the uncertainty of where you're going to spend the next night, if you're going to have to move, and then the disconnection from your community and family. When you enter care, the state determines who you get to see, how often you get to see them, and most importantly, where you get to live. And one thing that study and research has indicated that increases the positive outcomes for young people is connection with a committed adult. Someone says that I'm going to stick with you despite all the changes that you may experience through foster care, that I'm going to be with you and I'm going to help you understand and navigate those changes, as well as help you navigate life. And what I see young people needing is more people to step up and say, hey, I may not be able to, be in a place where I can be a foster parent, right?
Right.
I do have time, talent, and information that I am willing to share with a young person and give them what I know to help them on their path to adulthood.
Listen, Candace, I'm so thankful that you said that. Like, I meet so many children who have aged out of foster care, and redeveloping their minds to believe that love can be unconditional is sometimes a task, especially when you've seen so many homes. I remember a young man, he was only like 14 years old, and he had already been in like 9 different homes. And when I shook his hand, all the life was out of his hand. And it really touched my heart. And I was like, is there something that I could do? And literally, I just started making video vlogs. I started going on the news. I made a movie, and I just started talking and keeping the conversation going, because there's this underlying climate in our country that says if you're in foster care or you are adopted, that you're thrown away. But I always tell my young men and my young women who are in foster care or even adopted that you are a chosen group of young men and women, and you have to know that God's hand is still on you despite of your circumstance. He's still going to give you the victory at the end. And although you may not can see it right now, it's still not the end. Candace, I know you talked a little bit about people giving their time, some people even giving their money, but if there was one thing right now that your program would need or someone would need right now, like how could a community right now really, really help, and how do they get involved with everything that you're doing?
I think one thing that they can do is spread the message that support is available to those young people, to reach out to their case manager if they know that a young person has experienced care or after age 14 or beyond and is in need of support, to direct them to us so that we can see if that young person first is eligible for the support, and if they are, to make sure that they're connected. I think spreading the message is one of the things that we want and need the community to do. I know sometimes because so much has been going on in the pandemic, right? And so many people have experienced so many things of, loss of relatives, friends, and so forth, that sometimes our priorities are shifted in ways that we don't expect them to shift. And our mind gets disconnected to some things that we probably had a passion to do, but because of everything that's happened around us, we just sort of got disconnected. So what I would say is to reconnect with, if they could, with their desire to support, and even if it's spreading the message that help is available, we just need them to be able to do that for us.
You heard it right here. My sister Candace Jones, she wants you to spread the word. She is the Independent Living Program Director of Division of Family and Children's Services in the state of Georgia. I want to make sure that you get an opportunity to connect with all that they're doing. Candace, is there a website that people could possibly go to that we can maybe put on the screen as well? Because I know my listeners and I know my viewers, they're all about help. They're all about service. I continue to drill into them every single day that if you want to be great, the Bible says the greatest with an EST, I want to be the greatest. Come on, somebody. The greatest among us will serve. And so they're all about service. How do they connect with you guys?
All right, so for those young people who aged out of foster care in Georgia, who may still be in Georgia or who may be living in another state, or those young people who aged out in another state but are living currently in Georgia, you can visit our website at www.garse-ilp.org. There are other programs in other states. I would say probably reconnect with the child welfare agency in your state to see what supports, because every state has support available. It just may look uniquely different. But I can tell you here in Georgia, if you go to that website, it will definitely tell you about all the pandemic relief support that we're providing and how a young person can receive those supports.
Candace Jones, Independent Living Program Director of Division in Family and Children Services in the state of Georgia. I do honor you and I appreciate you. Family, it's the Willie Moe Jr. Show. You know, we all about inspiration and purpose, and this purpose is near and dear to me. So I want to make sure that you get involved. Thank you, Candace, for hanging out with me. It's such an honor to kick it with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Indeed, my honor. Yeah.